Good morning, gentlemen. In fact, today the title of the seminar is Investments in the Future of Egypt, Vistas of Desert Reclamation. We are honored to have a group of Egyptian scientists, top-notch ones on national and international levels, here in the panel or among the attendees. Our distinguished speaker today is Professor Farouk El-Baz. Welcome, Professor. Dr. Farouz, no need actually to highlight Dr. Farouz, but I'm obliged to give a small brief about him, though it is repetition, if you please allow me. Dr. Farouz is a member of the Scientific Consult Advisory Organ of President Sisi. He was also former scientific advisor of late President Sadat, professor of Boston Remote Sensing University, and the National Academy member of the National American Engineering Academy. He participated in Apollo of NASA 67 to 72, where he worked as Secretary General of the Committee of Selecting the places of the landing of Apollo, and he was responsible for and the chief trainer of astronauts during the period from 73 to 82. He ran the land and Earth and the planets in the Smithsonian, Washington, D.C. In 1982, he worked as Deputy President of ETech Optical Systems before joining Boston University in 1986. He is the pioneer of photography from space for exploring groundwater in the deserts of Egypt, Sudan, Oman, and Emirates. He got many awards, the chief among which Apollo Award, and in the Egyptian Merit of First Class, and he's a fellow of London Astronomical Society in London. The American Geological Society established an award entitled Farouk El-Baz for desert researches. The international section of the committee also awarded him as a distinguished scientist. We are actually proud of what we are saying. We just would like to greet the professor and thank him for attending the seminar. Today we have Professor Salah Al-Haggar. Welcome, sir. He is Professor of Energy and Sustainable Development, AUC, a visiting professor at Washington State University. He has more than 30 years in experience of energy sustainable development fields. He got so many awards, such as Distinguished Study from the AUC. He has many scientific books in environment and energy. He works in environmental technology since '87 with a view to turning wastes into useful products. He developed a simple theory which depends on recycling. And this is since recycling is one of the important income generating activities which keeps the environment and natural resources and also provides job opportunities. He has a group of books. One of them is about clean production and changing wastes into valuable products, in addition to a number of books in different fields. Dr. Salah, we are honored to have you as we also would like to greet Dr. Salah. I don't know why the text is written in English. Dr. Ahmed is a friend of ours, and a scientist, and he has all the good characteristics. Although he's younger Then I. Dr. Ahmed Fikri is the chairman of our industrial group.
Managing Director of the Egyptian German Automotive Company, Vice Chairman of Egyptian Kuwaiti Foundry. He serves on the board of the مش هترجم ترجمة فورية بعد إذنك بقى يعني عشان board of directors of a number of government and non-government organizations, Federation of Egyptian Industry, Suez Canal Economic Zone, Engineering Export Council, Export Development Fund, Export Development Authority, and the Egyptian Center for Economic Studies. He is the current chairman of School of Business Dean Strategic Advisory Board, American University in Cairo. Dr. Abdulwahab serves as a member of the board of directors in a number of listed and unlisted companies such as El Suwaidi Electric, El Ahram Security Group, Spreya Masr Industrial Development Group, East Port Said for Integrated Development, Egyptian Center for Public Opinion Research, Basira, and National Academy for Sciences and Skills, NASS. Dr. Abdulwahab has an academic teaching experience where he served as an adjunct professor of operation management at the American University in Cairo, 1986 to 2001. He earned his Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering, his MBA and his PhD degrees in business administration, management, science, and statistics from the University of Alabama, USA.
I won't take much of your time. Dr. Abla is known by everybody, so I won't introduce her. I won't take much of your time, but investments in the future of Egypt and Vistas of desert reclamation. It is the future of Egypt. 95% of Egypt's land was unexploited because it was we're talking about a land which has minerals, investment vistas such as agriculture, mining, tourism, industry, gas, petroleum. The future of Egypt lies, and this is going to be transformational for the Egyptian civilization. That's for 7,000 years was focused only on the Nile and the valley. Today, with the overpopulation, we are obliged to enter new frontiers for the first time for 7,000 years. That's why this topic is important, because it defines our future and the well-being of Egypt in the coming decades. Dr. Farouk, we shall enjoy your presentation. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm really very glad to be amongst you in this center because I was that sure that we will not have a renaissance without an economic welfare in Egypt. They established this center and asked me to be a board member. I accepted, so I was really a member in the first board that was formed here. It was Dr. Ibrahim Kamil, Galal Zorba, and a group of people. Now they are no longer there. They also understood that there will be some people who will understand economics and international economics, so that the Egyptian economy will have a rebound. I'm very glad that you are doing the research that you give to the government and to the state. I'm happy because the director of this center is Dr. Abla, because Dr. Abla is a great woman. She is an authentic Egyptian who understands the world. She has the courage to, and she speaks openly, quietly, and she knows the timing of how to speak, the mode of speaking, when to be tough and when to be soft. And these are really distinguished characteristics in managing this center that should say to the government, oh, stop here because what you're doing is wrong, and this is of course very important. When she asked me to give a lecture here, which she started, she chose the topic, and because I told her I'll talk about the development passage, and she said no. We know much about the development passage, but we want to talk first about scientific research and geological research. How about the Western Desert? How about the underground water? I accepted what she offered because I can't actually reject whatever she says. I prepared my topic because Egyptian deserts are great. There are so many resources such as arable lands, minerals, tourism opportunities, but they are forgotten. Why? Because we are tied very strongly to the Nile Valley because the doctor said ancient Egyptians lived here and did not go to the desert. No, they went to the desert and they knew what is in there and they excavated everything. The materials that we see here in their statues in the Egyptian Museum, for example, the type of rock there, if we think of it, we'll see how clever they are. There is a King Chefrin statue which was made in rock, which is not found anywhere but in Egypt, which is very limited. This rock is as high as that camera, let's say 8 feet high. It's a small piece of rock that but it's a unique rock. In geology, okay, Jeffrin diorites, the American Geological Dictionary, it's called Jeffrin diorite. Why? Because we know nothing about it, but in this place in which they got this rock in order to make this statue of Jeffrin, because some people were asked to go and find a good piece of rock in order to make a sculpture of the statue of the king. So it's the king's statue, and that king was really not simple. They looked for a grayish granite. It's not as red as the Aswan granite, and its composition is different, its form is different, its solidity is different because it was made. We have diorites in America and in Europe, but in Egypt there is only in this place, and the ancient Egyptians knew it. You have to drive 6 hours southwest of Aswan in order to find it. How did they go? How did they go there that there was such unique rock? And then if you go to the oases, the people there got the barley for the beer. Beer, by the way, and wine were made in ancient Egypt, by the way. In the Bahariya oasis, we found a hole, we entered, and we found some sculptures of ancient Egyptians. We asked the antiquities officials to explain it. So they said it's a drawing of a noble person. We have noble since the ancient Egypt, so don't worry if you have beys or nobles nowadays. He was a notable as high as a mayor. He told his workers, "Oh, fill in the bags and tie them all. This barley is going to the beer of the king." It means that in the oasis, so remote area, they grew barley that was used in making the beer, and because and the beer was made of that particular barley because it was of high quality. This means that they went everywhere. They knew, for example, the Kafran diorites or the high quality barley in the oasis, Bahriya or northern oasis. What does this mean? It means that ancient Egyptians knew and studied everything and knew where good things are. If you go to Sinai, you'll find their centers of copper, uh, gold, etc. So this means that they had a high value civilization in Egypt because they knew their country, the resources of their country, and they exploited them very well. Now we are in zero civilization because we don't know what is in our country and how to use it. This is the story. This is part of the story. If you the low periods of the Egyptian history is because we don't know how to make the best use of our resources. We say and if we do, we'll have a high ranking position. And then we go down. Then another civilization goes up. This is our history, up and down periods of civilization, which means why? Because we don't know. What once upon a time we I had some geologists from the Geological Survey of America, and we lived in an hotel in Cairo. A receptionist graduated from university. He was talking to them, and he th- he was asking them why you are here for. Is- They told him we are accompanying Dr. Farouk to Farafra Oasis. He said, Farafra, in which country is Farafra? Is it in Saudi Arabia or Kuwait or Morocco? What does this mean? We don't know even the geography of our country. The first time I visited Siwa Oasis, and I had the municipality chief, I was talking about a depression in the east of Siwa, like the Siwa depression, but it's not populated and there's no agriculture. And I asked him to take care of this area. He said, "We don't know its geography. We don't know either geography or history." And he said he was a junior of military officer, and then he was alone. He was a poor man. He said, as soon as I came here and became the municipality chief, I went to visited the schools and and said, hey sir, hey sir. I asked him, and I asked them who the president of Egypt is. They said it's Gaddafi. The Garboub lies in Libya, so uh, uh, I did. They were. I asked, I said no. I have to go to Cairo and bring with me the photos of President Sadat in order to teach these pupils that their president is Sadat, not Gaddafi. What does this mean? It means that we do not know what's in our country and how to know it and how to get help with a person who knows that. And when he writes to say how to say it, that educated person should teach others. He he learns in university. He got a BA. He does he teach the driver? No. Does he teach the Farrash or the office boy? No. We have to feel that science and knowledge of our country is very good for the economy, for a better living, for our respect in other countries, for tourism, etc. In order to do all that, we have to take care of our country and see what's in. Besides, thank you. You are great. You are doing a very good job when you said, come and tell us about this topic. I would like to talk about Egypt's characteristic from space photos. Why? Because I worked in 1966 to 70 in Apollo project of the moon. My only important task was to analyze the photos in order to find the landing positions and what they will do later on. But the most important thing was to where to land, and it's going to be interesting in order to get us data. All that was because we took cameras that circled the moon, photographed the moon, and that was the only means of studying what what where where the spaceship will land, whether it will sink in dust or not. So I myself said that these photos, space photos, are going to be great. If we take the same photos of the Earth, we can explain such photos ge geologically, geographically, environmentally from the space photos as we did during the moon. I finished my moon task in 1972, and the Apollo project it started again in 1970. 73 Apollo Soyuz. It was a joint American-Russian journey to circle the Earth. I was the commander of the photography there, so they said we shall work this. You have to train the astronauts, and we started that task. We started to train the astronauts to circle the Earth at that time in particular. President Sadat was interested in thinking of how to live in this country. President Sadat had a vision. He had a project in his own mind called Desert Invasion. Because so long as people are living in the delta, there will be overpopulation, and we have to send 3 million people to Sinai, 3 or 4 million more to the Western Desert. And he asked me to come back to Egypt in order to tell me this. And he asked me to find what's in the desert. We started the training of astronauts and the selection of cameras in order to photograph the Egyptian deserts in general and the Western Desert in particular. For this, let me actually turn on the screen. These are the 3 astronauts that I'm standing with of Apollo and Soyuz, because I concentrated with the 3. As for because of Sadat's story with the Western deserts, I went to Ain Shams University and met my professor, Dr. Murad Ibrahim Yusuf, and my colleague Hassan Al-Aitr, and wrote a layout of the the study of the Western Desert from space. And it was the first time for me to know about the geography of the Western Desert. I got the money from there. I was responsible for the institution, and as I had $250,000 for research. I brought them annually for Enshams. We bought labs, and we bought all the maps of Egypt and all the equipment. That and we also bought vehicles to go to the desert, and we started to work in the Western or the Egyptian desert. The first photo, that what you see now, is all Egyptian deserts as photographs. The first thing that appeared in this 65 photos that covered all Egypt is the triangle that you can see there. It's a different color. Its geography is different. Its position is different. I took each 5 kilos. We studied there, and we moved to another one. I went to Asyut University, to which I belonged in the past, and every 5 kilometers we stop and we found out that all this place is full of small round pebbles, and as soon as I see a round pebble anywhere in the world, wherever it is, I say that was brought by a river. There is nothing at all in the world that makes round the pebble but the flow of water, because this pebble goes around and round in the depth of the sea. When you see that, and whenever you see sand anywhere on any beach, that's made that roundness is the water. Rocks are broken, and the crystals of these rocks are angular. Nothing is round in nature, so it falls from the rock in the shape of an angle, but as soon as it goes down the river, it gets rounded and rounded. And when you look at any river, wherever, from any high mountain, and enters into the sea waves takes this.
What's being distributed makes shorelines or shores. Actually, those shores do come from rivers, are alluvial deposits of rivers. So whatever you see, whatever is round in the world, if you see whatever is round gravels in the world, you must realize that it has been made round by a constant flow of water. We see now here this all this rounded shapes must have been brought about by a river, alluvial. These are alluvial deposits, so made by an ancient river. The Nile River used to flow this way. You must realize this. But we must also realize that there's been a crack here, a crack. So and this area of land has become higher, and the other one uh, has gone into a lower position and made this new delta. Well, actually, this new delta dates back to only 1 million to 6 million years only. Only 1 million to 6 million years. So how can we benefit? How are we going to capitalize on this? Of course, we must turn all these into good account. So we drew on all this information and started to mull everything on the common borders, at the area of common borders between among Egypt, Sudan, and Libya. The common borders, this one is taken on the borders, on the common borders between Egypt, Libya, and Sudan. This one, so about the area is about 200 meters high. We have this is called Al-Awaynat Plateau, which is 200, which is 200 meters high. Nothing in the world, nothing in the world that can make so crooked things, such crooked things can only be brought about, be created that crooked or rounded way. Only water, which is responsible for crooking or turning around these things. In fact, Africa, the entirety of Africa, the entire, the entire, the entire Africa goes upward, actually, because the earth goes round and round and spins round itself, goes northward. India was an island. India 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 was someday an island, and when the island of India hits Africa or hits Asia, it made the Himalayan mountains. Australia goes northward. When you go under to see underwater rocks, you will find, if you see, you may also realize things like streets or roads down the water. Actually, most of these used to go northward to come adjacent to the northern block, which means that the block of the entire of Africa could receive heavy rains. Could receive heavy rain. That's why we the marks, actually this heavy water which used to pour over Africa used to leave, this heavy water has already left its indelible mark which can be realized with the naked eye on the land, on the terrain. This heavy water used to pour somewhere and then pour heavily. They used to go into cracks, or with this water used to gather to collect somewhere else and form subterranean or underground water. We would like to see the amount of water in at these valleys. You will find mud which is 24 feet in thickness. You will find relics of ancient houses showing instruments, tools. Actually, Actually, such houses planned in a square shape goes back to the pharaohs. Goes back to the pharaohs in India, U.S., and whatever area. You will find houses in a rounded shape. Only pharaohs. It was only pharaohs who invented or introduced the way of planning houses in square shapes. The rounded shape would take a lot of area or a lot of land, but the Egyptians introduced the way of planning houses in in a square in squares, only in squares, because the pharaohs earlier realized that a square shape would consume only the smallest amount of land available. You will find here the relics of ancient man who used or used quartzite. We used stone to make tools. Quartzite, quartzite, the sort of a stone which has become calcified. They used to do to sculpt those stones into shapes like this to make knives out of them. This is a grinding stone. This is a grinding stone. This is a grinding stone we see in the picture. In the image shows a grinding stone which used to grind cereals and grains into powder. Yes, which means people used to inhabit, and and those people inhabiting there used to have animals as well, which means in the past, ostrich, ostrich. In ancient times, the area was abound with ostriches. We find eggshells, shells of ostrich eggs, shells of ostrich eggs. Oh, the machine doesn't work properly. Oh, I don't know. This is this is the grinding stone. Is there anything wrong with the machine, with the computer? The grinding stones mean that those people used to have grains, used to have cereals, and that's why they have introduced the grinding stone to grind this amount of grains that they used to have into powder. They used to have animals. They used to have people on the surface until a Lebanese-born colleague of ours, identified as Tariq Al-Ashri. We told him, we took him to the Western Desert on a tour, and took radar images. Radar vibrations are emitted and emitted from the equipment, and they keep going into deeper into the ground until they impact something solid, in which case they start to return. Emissions and rays made by the radar equipment keep going on. It can even permeate or penetrate anything made of sand or covered with sand. But as soon as it hits something so solid, it reflects back again to the equipment, in which case the equipment measures the distance to know how distant this solid thing, how deep it is. This here, it shows this is 200 kilometers, 12 kilometers. So the area used to have horrible rivers, terrible rivers used to flow there. Massive rivers used to flow there. Some of them was 200 meters deep, the others 12 meters. When the Africa was closer than it is now to